This is the breakdown for the facial alteration sequence, or the Star Wars sequence if you prefer. And as you can see here, we've got the 2D image of the subject created in Photoshop, and then we've got all the images here of sort of cave walls and stuff like that. And they've all been added to make the background seem like part of the sequence as well, to make it really detailed and make the subject seem part of that background. As you can see, the background images, the levels, and some blur has been added to really to give it a cinematic feel, like it is part of the background. And then we've got the subject here. We've got two images for the subject. One is a masked area, and there's 4 masks that have been placed over the original footage. And this layer is the original skin color of the subject. And basically, the 4 masks, the mask expansion is changed over time using keyframes to make it seem as though the subject's original skin is sort of peeling through, and you'll see that effect in a few seconds once it's loaded out. You can just see the skin sort of peel through here very slowly. And to really emphasise this effect, use the Mojo effect to make it seem more detailed. Roughen edges to make the edges really stand out and seem more realistic than they were before. And then we've also got some light ray effects, and the light sort of shines through as the masked area opens up. And I also used a glow effect to really emphasise the light as it shined through. You can see here the glow in the light just appears as the mask slowly gets bigger. And we've also got the light here that shines upon the subject to give it that red sci-fi look that's really similar to the original sequence. And now we move on to the second shot of the sequence, which is using more or less the same effects, but this time it's a shot of the subject's hand. And again, we've got 2 background images of the cave and also 2 images of the hand, so it's a really similar effect of the skin mask, the original skin colour masking through the red light, as you can see here. Again, we've used key light just to remove the background and then masked out the hand as well. And I've also removed some of the grain to make it look a bit more professional. And we're also using Mojo to really emphasise the shadows and give it a detailed look, and a red glow to really emphasise the red colour. So yeah, as you can see here, again the skin just masks through the original skin colour, and again it's using the same effects just to make the masked area seem more realistic and the colour look as best as it possibly can. And again, I'm using different images, well, the same images but at a different scale, to keep the continuity up, as the backgrounds would obviously change as the shots change. And now moving on to the final shot, again it's the exact same procedure, 2 shots of the subject, 2 different background images, You can see here it's the exact same effects just applied to the subject, just to make the edges seem realistic and the colouring seem correct. And also it's been darkened down a bit, as you can see. And again, we've got the light rays shining through the masked area once again, and a bit of shadow to really add some overall depth to the shot. And then the red area, again, it's the exact thing, just trying to make it look as detailed as possible using these effects, and make the colouring look as similar to the background as it possibly can. And here we've got a little effect that was added in right at the last minute. This is basically an image of a crack in a wall, and using changing the mask expansion, the crack begins to get bigger, almost like an earthquake is appearing, as the light shines through the subject's skin. So it makes it seem like the background is being affected by the changes that are occurring to the subject as well, which really adds to the impact of the overall effect, I think. So you can see here the earthquake just slowly gets bigger as the shot goes on. And here we've got the camera that was added just to give a bit of movement to each shot, and to make the whole sequence seem a bit more cinematic. So you can see here the camera slowly zooms into the subject. Okay, so this is the breakdown for the heads-up display recreation from Iron Man. As we can see here, this is the source footage. It's been masked out already. I'll get to that in a minute. But of course this has simply been keyed using key light to remove the green background. And then we've also added some mojo, again, to give a cinematic look on the subject's face. And it doesn't look too great here, but when it's blended in with lights and the 2D elements, it fits in really well. So now here we've got the actual lights in the shot. We've got this detailed red light here, and then this is blended in with a softer sort of white light to give a sort of sci-fi reddish orange tone. And now moving on to the actual helmet side, this is all the 2D elements that were created in Photoshop, and they've all been positioned correctly. Obviously you'll see them with the subject's face in a minute. But yeah, they've all been created in Photoshop and positioned and scaled, rotated, and as you can see I've changed the colour over time to sort of animate them using keyframes, added blur as well, roughened the edges to sort of change how the edges look, give them a more three-dimensional feel that goes with the circular helmet. And change the colour again of some elements over time just to animate them, make it interesting. And of course added some shadow to some of the elements so you can see as they move past the subject's face a small shadow while they're going over the subject. Okay, and now if we apply the helmet to the subject, I've used the sphere eyes effect to give it a circular look, which I think makes it look a lot more like a helmet and gives it a three-dimensional look. And then the helmet's been doubled up to give it a bit more power, and to add a little bit of blur to make it look like more is going on in the sequence. And then these two helmet icons at the bottom here, I'll show you them later on. That's when the helmet changes to a bluer colour. And then we've also got these little reflections here that are reflections of the 2D elements. You should see them here in the subject's eye when this renders. So yeah, if you look there you can see a sort of reflection, and that sort of moves as the 2D elements move with the subject's eye. So that was just to add some more detail to the sequence. And these lights, as I've explained, we'll be seeing them later on when the sequence changes to the second part. This light is just for the circular white thing that goes around the subject's face. As it goes past the subject, the white light streams on his forehead and then disappears as the circular area goes away. And these are the two eye areas that I added late on in the project, and these are tracked to the subject's eye, and then the position and rotation of the these circular images changes as the sequence goes on, and I've also added a red area so it looks like it's casting a red shadow on his eye. And now if we look at the second part of the sequence here, we'll see the blue lighting effect. So yeah, here we've got the helmet with the blue light, and this changes around halfway through the sequence. There's a sort of area where the HUD swooshes past the screen and then a new one appears, so I'll try and show you that just now. And this was done just using keyframe animation and Gaussian blur effect to blur the heads-up display as it changed from one area to another, as you can see there. And it looks really cool when it's playing at normal speed. So yeah, you see it there, it just swooshes over, and it looks like a really cool transition. Okay, so this is the breakdown video for the eye alteration scene, the recreation from the Terminator. So as you can see here, I've got the original footage, and it's been duplicated so I can key out both areas of the subject, which would be his lower face and his top face, as you can see here. So I've done this just to get the most accurate keying I possibly can. And then I've added a little remove grain effect, which removes some of the grain that was present from the film shoot, which is just under his jaw. And then I've used Mojo by Magic Bullet, which gives it a dark cinematic effect, and you'll see later on will help it fit in with the background. And as you can see, I'm just applying the same effects to the top half of the footage. And as you can see, there's still a green area on his hair, but we'll be doing some more keying in a little bit to get rid of that. So now we've got some of the 2D imagery, and this is some of the cuts on the subject's face. And I'm using Mojo and a blur again to blend it into the subject. And it's the exact same with this, which as you can see is another scratch on the left side of the subject, and we're using the same effects just to blend it in. And this final scratch goes on top of the forehead here. Then we've got the skull area, which would have obviously been from where the damage had appeared to the subject's face. And I'm using Mojo again just to blend this in to this background. Then we've got this dark area, which I believe was a masked area of skin. And then the colour was changed with the levels control. And this allowed a detailed black area on the subject's face that really shows you the impact of the damage to his face. We've also got some wires in there as well to give it a robotic feel. And then now we have the actual red eye, which is a 2D image in Photoshop. And we're adding a glow effect to this to give it a red pulsing feel. And there's also a small area of metal on the subject's face at the side here, and that's been colour corrected and blurred as well. So now we see the composition with some lights added, which works well with the background. You can see there that light shows the light in the background. And then we've got 2D car image that moves past in the background for a split second. So that was of course a green screen footage which has been keyed out. Then we've got blur added to it, and of course Mojo again helps it blend into the background, and I've also given it a small shadow there. And we've got the rain effect, which has been masked into two areas so it doesn't go over the subject's face. Again, this is simple green screen footage. And then we've got the 3D camera that slowly moves over the course of the sequence, just to give it a sort of three-dimensional cinematic feel. And now we've got more areas of the face here that have been masked out, and this was simply to make some areas darker and lighter, and also to key the face again to make it really stand out from the subject and to stop it looking from a green screen background. Then in this final composition here, I've select masked part of the subject's face, made a shadowy area to give it a 3D feel, lowered the brightness on the ear area here, and that is the final composition. And I'll just play it out here. And of course all of the 2D elements on the subject have been tracked to his face,